Hey everyone, this is Chris Crazy House here, and did you guys go check out that new Charlie's Angels movie? Did you know it was even coming out? Because I barely knew about this movie at all. I remember seeing the first trailer, but I didn't know when the movie itself was going to be released. And then once I found out when it came out, after it had already been released, I was like, well, this is not really a good weekend. November is not really a good weekend to release something that's supposed to be an action thriller. And to be totally honest with you, folks, the movie itself didn't even look interesting to me. It has nothing to do with the fact that it's a female led action movie. It has nothing to do with the fact that it's a directed by a woman, Elizabeth Banks. I think that's actually a cool thing, right? I didn't know Elizabeth Banks had that type of skill to be directing a movie, but everyone has the right and the opportunity to want to break out or break into getting behind the camera. I think that's a great thing. You don't have to always be in front. But to me, the movie just didn't look interesting. That's why I didn't waste time with it. And so now the director, Elizabeth Banks, has gotten on. Well, she made some articles actually before the movie even came out, trying to hedge her bets. I guess they did some screenings and saw that the movie wasn't going to be too good or that people weren't going to respond to it. So she said that she blamed men, saying that men don't want to see a movie with female or don't want to see an action movie with females as a lead. And the internet has been tearing her a new one the whole week. And it's not just from these political commentators that you normally see on social media. It's actually been a lot of people who just comment and review movies who have been tearing her a new one on this, because this is a problem where Hollywood will release these films that are bad, and instead of just taking responsibility and saying, hey, this movie's bad, they'll start making it a political message and blaming someone based on their gender or their politics or whatever and say it's their fault. Now, from what I understand, the movie was not even marketed to men. They the way they marketed it was, I assume it was marketed to the age demographic of females that they had in the movie. Like they wanted to market to that young adult female crowd within like their late teens and early 20s, and that's what they were trying to show in the movie and empower them. So my question to that is, if you were marketing to them, why didn't they go see it? If something was marketed to a certain demographic and they don't go see it, you can't then blame the demographic that you didn't want to see it or weren't targeting and say that they're the ones with the problem. It's not them. You didn't want them to go see it, right? I assume, because when I saw the movie, I was like, okay, this is for young girls, young teens, and women in their early 20s that or people who just love that Charlie's Angels brand. But that seemed to not work. So I was like, and what's funny about that is usually when you target women at that age, that usually brings in men, because men are usually either going on dates with these women or just want to be around these types of women. So I mean, it works for every nightclub, bar, everywhere. When you say ladies' night or whatever, or you're targeting women of a certain age group, that usually brings the men too. You almost don't have to market to the men because you're targeting the women. If you get the women there, the men are going to show up. But apparently that didn't work for this film. And like I said, you can't jump in here now, or even before the movie came out. Elizabeth Banks just went out there and was trying to tear down men for not wanting to see it. And I think that's a dumb way to go. They did that with that Captain Marvel movie too. Started blaming people, a demographic that you weren't targeting, for if the movie didn't do well. But I mean, Captain Marvel did well though, by the way. So that's neither here nor there. But my whole thing is this: uh, you should concentrate more on your audience if that's what you want. Like that would be like me getting mad at certain demographics for not what. That'd be like me getting mad at the white supremacist crowd for not watching my cartoons. I don't want them to watch my cartoons or buy my products. I wouldn't expect them to. If you're a person who leans to that type of demographic that is anti-black, why would I want to court you? You know what I mean? So I don't even speak to that audience. I don't care what they do. I assume that they're not going to support me, and that's fine by me. Why would I want some skinhead or whatever buying my products, right? So, what makes this story even crazier is now the dude that directed that terrible Ghostbusters remake back in 2016. He's jumped in the conversation now, and now he's trying to give his 2 cents because I guess he went through the same thing. But sorry, my mouth is a little dry, so I had to get a drink. But he jumped into the mix talking about jumping on people for not going to see this movie and saying people are wrong, and it's just like, come on, man, you made a crappy movie too. Like, I didn't want to see that Ghostbusters movie because it continued the same stereotype about the black character, and not only that, they made her a complete and utter buffoon in the movie. Like, she's more buffoonish than anyone else in the movie. They're all supposed to be comedians, but they made her like a minstrel show. And that's why I couldn't go watch that. I was like, why would you, if you're talking about empowerment and doing something different, why would you have the black character just be a complete buffoon? And once again, like they did with the original Ghostbusters, the black one is not a scientist. The black one just happens to get a job working as a Ghostbuster. And for me, I was just tired of that. So that's why I didn't want to deal with that film. But then when people start making these lies that no one wants to see a action movie or whatever led by a female, I mean, I won't even take it back to, because people were, over the week, people have been bringing up movies like Alien, the Alien franchise, and the original Terminator franchise that all had female leads in it that people love. But I won't even go that far. You can go back to the 2000s with movies like, what was it? Underworld, the Underworld trilogy, led by Kate Beckinsale, or even go with the original reboot of Charlie's Angels, the remake that came out with Drew Barrymore, Lucy Liu, and that plucky duck looking female. What's her name? Cameron Diaz. I'm sorry. To me, she always looked like a duck. I never thought she was attractive, but that movie was popular in its time. And you know what? I didn't even like that movie. I wasn't a fan of the Charlie's Angels because I thought it was, first of all, trying to rip off of The Matrix at the time with some of the wire foo and everything like that, and bullet time and whatnot. I thought it was kind of corny that they were doing that, but it also was almost kind of like too hokey and too much of a comedy for me. So I didn't like those movies, but I remember those movies. That's the funny part. Like, when I was thinking about it, when this remake came out, this new one that came out over the weekend, I was looking at it and saying, well, there's really nothing memorable or anything that's really grabbing me about this movie. I remember the ones from the 2000s, sadly to say, and I was like, I didn't even like those movies, but I remember everything about it. Excuse me. I remember the actresses in the movie. I remember that Bill Murray was in the movie. I remember Crispin Glover playing the villain in the first one. I remember Demi Moore playing a villain in one of the movies as well. She was like a former Charlie's Angel who turned bad. So, like, it's funny. Like, I remember things and plot points about those movies, but I can't. I saw that trailer and couldn't remember anything about it. I didn't even know when the movie was coming out. So it just, to me, they didn't even make an interesting movie. So, that's my gripe. Is like, if you make something that's not interesting, and then you try to compare it to Spider-Man, saying that Spider-Man gets all these reboots and reimaginings and everything. Why can't Charlie's Angels? That's not the problem, Elizabeth. You've made a terrible film and a boring film, and they released it at a bad time and had bad marketing. No one went to go see it. Don't start blaming everybody for it and saying it's political. It's not. It's more the fact that you just made something that no one really cares about. It's like Spider-Man is something that's constantly marketed. even when Spider-Man's not a movie, there's Spider-Man cartoons, toys, video games, and everything else being pushed out there. So you can't use that as a comparison. Okay, Spider-Man is one of the most popular superheroes around the globe. He's more recognizable than a lot of superheroes out there. He's one of the big three. Other than like Superman and Batman, Spider-Man is at the top. Okay, so that's one of those false things where you can't make that type of comparison. That's like comparing meat and grapes or something like that. Okay, you can't make that comparison. So to me, it's just one of those things again where people are letting their own political feelings out and not being realistic about the product and the content that they've made. Maybe you need to go back to the drawing board and reassess your content, or maybe create something original. Don't try to just live off the name of Charlie's Angels, and maybe you'll get something better that people will respond to. You folks let me know how you feel about it in the comments section. Chris Crazy House signing out. Peace.